best of 6. And the last topic will be a client case study, another joint presentation. And it will be about achieving excellence with data and analytics. Quick housekeeping. After this presentation is over, we will have some time, I assume, for questions and answers. And after that, we have another networking opportunity. So we will be here as a complete group at 4:15 for our final 2 keynotes. And of course, once those 2 keynotes are complete, we are at the party and a networking event, which is back in the exhibit hall, where I think the types of drinks will have changed and we can all let loose a little bit. So without further ado, our 2 speakers. Our first speaker is Alec Brecker. He's the president and CEO of the Results Companies. He's 18 years of experience in the outsourcing industry. Was previously a co-founder of Communications and Commerce, ComCom, which had over 2,500 employees when it was sold to Teleperformance in 2003. And joining him is Dr. Michael Housman, Managing Director, Analytics at Evolv, Inc. And he has over 10 years experience engaging in econometric research and working directly with stakeholders to interpret and use the findings of rigorous analysis. I can barely see that, or say that, so it sounds pretty darn complex. So please join me and welcome them both. Thank you.
Good afternoon. What we want to talk about a little bit today, and we'll come here, is we want to talk a little bit about a story of kind of what we did as an organization, but truthfully, it's a story about what we all do, and in some way, shape, or form, we're all involved in contact centers. We all are involved in a business that uses lots of tools, lots of technologies, but at its core foundation, it is a people business. People call us, people interact with us, and then people speak to our customers and hopefully in some way, shape, or form solve their issues and create value for each of us as an organization. We run a call center and a contact center for people that need those services. And early in our career, we recognized that we had a real challenge. We had lots of businesses, both customers as well as businesses that we were trying to operate. We had lots of owners, disparate processes, and these are things that we all deal with. And in 2006, we made a conscious effort to rebuild our organization from the ground up, to really take a look at what we were doing as a call center provider and as a call center operator and as a call center owner of what we would do. And so we took a look at what would we do from a process perspective, we took a look at what we do from a management perspective, and really try to understand what the areas of opportunity were for us as a company. A couple of real big challenges that we realized is, our product, and maybe this doesn't sound appropriate, but our product is people. We provide people to, deal with customer interactions. And that people, we realized that product that we had massive amounts of shrinkage. And shrinkage in the form of attrition, shrinkage in the performance of how that product was delivering quality service, and really the challenges that were related to cost from that perspective, and understanding that impact both to us and our client and that client's customer, ultimately the end user, the end caller. And then, we're in an industry where differentiation for each of us is about our brands and our products and how we support those. And there's lots of, I'm happy to be here with a number of our, what I would call, industry founders and people that we compete with and do business with, and as an outsourced provider that serves clients. We all serve you as clients together. So I'm glad to see that we're all in a room together, and there's lots of different options, lots of different choices from that perspective, and each of us is looking for different innovations to leverage what our lifeblood is, and that's people, and make sure that we have a business that can change and support that. We then said, with our lifeblood being people, what do those people need to do? Well, we need to drive performance in some way, shape, or form. And the best way to drive performance typically is to gain experience. The more experienced players on the baseball team typically play better. They get more comfortable, they do things, and they can really understand how they as an athlete can perform better. And so we needed to understand how to get the traits of people that would be more successful in handling phone calls for our customers, for our clients and their customers. And we needed to understand what that candidate's potential. We needed to understand how to make those people, that product, better over time. And then we needed to say, okay, if we have these great people, what are the things that we're going to do to add value? So when there is when there's a phone call, that it adds value to that experience, so that end customer says, really, I like doing business with this company. I want to keep doing business with this company, and look for other ways to find efficiencies. You know, and we use the words like efficiencies and value, but ultimately it translates to customer retention, and therefore, you know, margins and dollars for each of you that operate, whether they be captive centers or outsource centers or manage call centers in some blended fashion. When we started to think about how we would leverage that, we looked at, you look at companies, or what really companies are good at. And people like UPS and FedEx are good at delivering packages, and people like Nike are good at making athletic apparel. And we're pretty good about operating call centers, but call centers, we have tons and tons of data. I don't know if there's an industry that has more data in such a way that it just exists all over. So we began to look for partners that could help us, and we got introduced to Evolv, and we first started, what do you mean a screening company? You're going to screen our employees? Well, we do that all the time. But no, what they really were is a partner that would help us leverage that data that we had in acquiring our product, or people in this case, and better understand of how that acquisition, of how we would acquire those people, how they would help our tenure, and therefore reduce attrition. And just making sure that it wasn't about recruiting as much as it was about really using data to intellectually make decisions about people to drive performance. We started with a strategy, and really it was a strategy of recruit smarter and train smarter. And I know that sounds really simple, but when you're dealing with people, acquiring that product and that raw material is hard. If you're acquiring circuitry to make circuit boards, there's very specific quality measurements that you can go. It's a tangible product, you can touch and feel it, but people have lots of different things going on. And we talked about how do we get the candidates that are going to provide better, how are we going to get our recruiters to focus on candidates that will ultimately provide better service? And how are we going to source lots and lots of people and make sure that the time we're using to source those people is correct? And then when we source all these people, how are we going to understand how to train them? And I don't mean from a vocational perspective, because training vocationally to, enter data into a CRM or learn specific about a product, those are easily steps. But how to take advantage and really train and make sure that you're using that product to its fullest extent and maximize performance. With Evolv and beginning to have to understand that data and what those people are, it breaks into really something that we all use in the call center every time: red, green, and yellow. And so if we looked at the data that if Evolv helped us look at our data and to find the trends of people, that if we hired the green people, they would be better. Now, we didn't know how much better they would be, we didn't know what they would do, and it really took a long time to understand that, because you have to get the entire organization to buy in. But by using a data intelligence tool such as Evolv to help us manage our call center personnel, we have seen some dramatic results. And for us, these numbers of reducing the first 30-day attrition, so when you graduate training, as an organization, we've dropped our attrition by 12%. And if you think about that, if you employ 5,000 people, that's a little over 500 people, which is a really big number. And then the next one, the 90-day attrition, has shrunk by another 8%. And I mean, it took a long time. So it took us about a year to transform our organization. And the best advice when we did some diligence, we got to talk to a competitor, which was really great, and they said, tool's great, only advice I would give you is be patient. And it's hard to be patient on this kind of information, this kind of opportunity. And then what was really fascinating is that the people, which you would somewhat expect, because when people have great job satisfaction, they tend to stay longer. If we all like what we're doing, we're staying longer. And our top employees have extended their time 26% longer. So, I mean, that's almost, that's a little more than a quarter of a year. And then the good performers are really identified sooner. So once we We all are guilty of this in managing call centers. You know, we always focus on the people that are performing badly. We all do it. Oh, red's bad, let's go, we'll go fix you, make you better, and that'll be good. But really, we left out was the people that were doing well. And it got us to really look at the people that we're hiring and say, wow, you're doing well, how do we make you do better? How do we make you stay longer? And then the poor performers, you know, we were able to say, maybe you're not the right person for this job. So even though you identified yourself as a green person to us, we were able to say that they were not going to be able to perform. And we were able to remove them earlier, which has extended the life cycle of our product. And that's a people perspective. And, oops, sorry about this. Obviously, PowerPoint's not my specialty there. But this to me is amazing data. It benefits all of us. It benefits you as an employee. It benefits our call center agents. It benefits the customers we're talking to. It benefits the clients that we're serving. Reducing handle time by 15% and improving quality are two really great metrics. And what it's really doing is saying we're going to get out the people. We're going to select better the people that can help us. We're going to remove the people that can't, and we're going to keep tweaking our profile to understand who's the best person to hire. And then when you look at customer satisfaction, and there's a lot of things that I think the industry over the last year or two really talks about customer experience management. And I think that's a good term. I think all of us, our companies, are trying to understand what that means. But the customer satisfaction and the customer experience, so either if we're acquiring customers, managing their time as a customer, or if they're threatening to leave as a customer, we've increased that satisfaction. And then adherence. I mean, people like coming to work. They're going to come to work on time. They're going to come when they want. They're going to come when they're supposed to come, and they're going to perform well. And so all of that data has translated to a benefit to everybody, because we're hiring less people. The people that we're hiring are able to earn more money because they're driving better performance, and therefore the services that we provide to our clients and therefore our customers are improvement, and there's more value there. And it's really, and I want to stress the fact, it's truly taking a look at your data and using a tool to do it to better manage your people, because there's no substitute for good people and good management from that standpoint. The one thing that came out of this that was, what I would say unexpected, and I don't know, the Evolv folks are here, so you probably could ask them as well, but the one thing that came out of here was really that the influence that our trainers had on our people. And the lines in the graph represent a series of different trainers and the way their attributes of training specific employees. So we had what we thought were the best trainers in the world, and then we hired the greenest employees, yet we weren't training them right for that particular group of people. So you have dynamic trainers that can deliver great presentations, but these green or great employees understood, they really wanted to understand the factual data. We had other people that were green employees that really were going through training in a very tedious fashion. They wanted somebody that was more, I would say, performance from a training perspective. And those things and those attributes we began to look at and go, wow, look at how these trainers are increasing and affecting the volume of when people are falling off. So that was one of those ancillary benefits that a recruiting tool gave us. We didn't change our learning management system. We didn't do anything other than look at who we were putting in the training class and doing what thing, and what people were training which people, excuse me. I mean, overall, some blatantly obvious, hiring the right people propels the opportunity for success. We all want to hire the right people. And when people come in and interview and we select them and we coach them, we all think we're doing a great job, but identifying and sourcing that raw material has helped us immensely. Agent performances are improving across the board. Looking at this data and then looking at longer term trends of wow, you were a green employee and you were performing great, but all of a sudden now you're not performing so well, or you were a green agent, we promoted you to a supervisor. Wow, we really should have helped advance your career as an agent versus a supervisor. This is one of my favorite stories is, everybody wants great service on every call. And if you ever get a chance and you go to Memphis, take the FedEx tour. And the FedEx tour is given by employees, and the employees give a great job in the tour, and they talk about the disciplinary action around mishandling a package. And if you mishandle a package the first time, you don't get promoted for 6 months or something like that. If you mishandle it twice, you get terminated. And somebody said, that's kind of harsh. And they said, well, could be your package they had mishandled. And so trying to get that activity to a customer service agent where they're talking to lots of people that probably are not real happy that they're calling in most instances. I don't know too many companies that say, oh yeah, our customers call all the time and say, we love you. They usually come and say, we have a problem. So driving superior customer service on every call, which then also is creating securing success in each business opportunity. And whether that's an interaction between an agent, a customer, a supervisor, an agent, anytime that there's interaction with the people, this data has helped us be better leaders of our personnel. I think as we think about the future and think about data, and there's lots of analytics companies and lots of tools around that, and I think I think you have to use that stuff. You have to remember from our perspective, and what Evolv keeps reminding us is that we are a great data analytics engine, but you have to hire and manage great people. So we have to continue to use tools to drive our organization's success. And then that business intelligence teaches us a lot. It teaches us who we shouldn't hire, where we shouldn't hire, what markets we should go to. Anytime we're thinking about adding a market or losing a market, the first thing we're asking our friends at Evolv to do is help us analyze the prospective employees, and is there a big enough population? Yes. Is it the right population? Is it the right population for the right work? And it's helped us make some real good decisions. And ultimately that drives better performance and lower cost. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael and let him talk specifically about the Evolv tool and the data analytics behind that. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Alec. So I think how I want to start this off is just talking a little about my personal experience. What really attracted me to Evolv is that everything we do is rooted in science, data, and analytics. Now, I'm sure all of you in the call center world, as you're sort of walking the floor, we hear data and analytics a lot. And in many cases, that means we're going to hire a couple analysts, sift through some data, and call it a day. But we really believe in it, and it's not lip service. And so we have 7 full-time PhDs whose job it is to ensure that everything we're doing is rooted in science. Now, to take a step back, I should point out we're based out of San Francisco. We're very much focused on the call center space, and we are what I would consider to be a disruptive technology. And that's something I'll kind of explain a little bit later. Let me jump ahead. So really there are 3 pillars that our values build out of. The first are proprietary measurement tools and methods. We have a team of industrial organizational psychologists whose job it is to get inside the heads of your employees. So we know that within this world, it's very hard to keep people in seats, and it's hard to retain the high performers. And really what that team does is try to understand the personality, knowledge, skills, and characteristics that make for the very best performers. And so ultimately, they're there to design these tools and to determine how we can separate the top performers from those that are less skilled. The second piece is predictive analytics. And obviously this is something very near and dear to my heart as I head up the analytics team. And really what our charge is to use state-of-the-art technologies and econometric methods to predict employee attrition and performance with a really high level of precision. So in the case of modeling survival, we'll use accelerated failure time models. Performance, we're using panel data models, really combing the literature and understanding what's the best way to measure and improve attrition and performance. And then finally, this third piece is continuous improvement, and that's just really the intersection of those first 2. And it's really where the rubber meets the road. Ultimately, we're using all of these data, these tools, and these analytics to get better and better at what we do. And what really drives a lot of the results is transparency. So I've worked at a couple of SaaS platforms, and to be honest, I'd never seen a place where we'll sit down with our clients 4 quarters and explain exactly how the results look. And we'll look at places where we've really knocked it out of the park, places where we've met expectations, and places where there's room for improvement. And I think that's kind of a unique thing, to really sit down and say, this is how we're doing. The other piece is that the results really help drive our ability to generate insight and to learn about our clients and to use their data to help them learn about themselves. So Alec had mentioned before some of the trainer analyses that we had done. And this was actually something that started out of some data feeds that they were inadvertently passing when they were giving us HR and attrition data. They were including trainer codes, and our team realized this, and we said this is something really interesting that we should just dig into. And as we dug in, we found that there were huge differences between trainers, that the trainers that were the best were retaining their agents almost 2 to 3 times longer as the trainers that were struggling. And then we're able to use classroom observations to really identify what are the attributes that make for a good trainer, and how can we transfer those best practices to trainers that are in need of help. So really it's that ability to generate insight and use data and analytics to come to interesting conclusions. So I should probably take a step back and ask the question, how do we do this? So really at its very core, we're talking about a pre-hire assessment platform, and what we'll do is you have an applicant funnel, and we'll take those applicants and they will take our assessment, and based on the scoring algorithms that have been engineered within the assessment, we will rank the candidates. They'll be labeled red, yellow, and green. And then as your recruiters are making hiring decisions, they'll use that information to hire the greens. And of course the idea is that the greens are your very best performers. That's the top talent that you really want to recruit and hire as much as possible. And so ultimately we're going to produce a better workforce through those algorithms. Now, to be perfectly honest, pre-hire assessment platforms, this is a fairly mature space, and the assessments themselves aren't rocket science. But the real value add here is the fact that we close the loop. So we're taking attrition data and performance data from our clients, we're matching it up with the assessment data that we already have, and we're continually optimizing the assessment. And I'd say if there's anything you take out of this talk, it's really that piece, that we're using those outcomes to get better and better at predicting. We're trying to figure out what content predicts really well, and do we want to weigh that more heavily? What content isn't really working, and we can potentially discard that. And so we're constantly seeking to get better at predicting while shortening up the assessment. So ultimately, this is going on behind the scenes, and this is continually being optimized for all of our clients. And the other thing that I would add is that because of this data exchange, we see any engagement with our clients as really a partnership. So we want to work together with clients that realize the value of data. And so it's quite frankly a pleasure to be up here with Alec and the results companies, because they're an organization that really gets it. They understand that data and analytics has tremendous power in sort of unlocking the organization's potential and improving business processes. So I'll actually just close out to say that I'm kind of the one that they keep behind a lot of monitors, coding and developing models. So being up here is a far cry from my typical day in the office, but we're more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have, and I'd love to speak with anyone afterwards about how we can potentially help you out. So. Great.
The mic stand should be, oh, sorry. Thank you. The mic stand should be just in the middle there if you want to walk over.
I work for results, but this was not a setup here. I really do have a question because I don't understand this as well as the people up there. Is it application agnostic? I mean, is there just one profile that you measure, or is this defined by application, and can it be defined by industry? How filtered do you get when you build these performance assessments?
Sure. That is a great question. So you're absolutely right, and we really do design the application, the assessment, for a given position. So at a minimum, sales, customer service, technical support, those are all very different assessments because you're exactly right. They require a very different set of knowledge, skills, and abilities. But we do, even beyond that, design it for a given program. So if you have certain programs that are different than others, for example, a program where the end client wants cheerleaders, a different program in which they want someone who's really efficient and gets off the phone quickly, that's another thing we can optimize so that we're emphasizing those traits within the scoring algorithms.
The piece I would add to that. Sorry. The piece I would add to that is a company that took a few years ago and said, hey, we have to kind of relook at how we do business. The thing, data analytics is not one time. So the fact of the matter is, whether it's customer service or sales, and then the programs within service, billing versus tech support, new acquisition versus win back, the programs within those and that data that comes out, and the slide that showed the performance data going back, those profiles and those things are constantly being tweaked, because what made somebody a green employee today might not make them a green employee tomorrow, because I'm fairly certain in all of our businesses, the products that we all sell, service, and support are going to change. And I think that's the key part of the Evolv engine, and being able to learn. And as an organization that says, okay, we're going to take data and learn, that means you have to be open to criticizing yourself. You have to be open to saying, we're bad managers, or we're bad hirers, or we're bad trainers, and then go, what are we going to do to be a better trainer, a better manager, and a better hirer of people? And I think that piece and that tweak and and that question around that is definitely one that you have to ask and understand when you go into this. Yeah. Yeah, we don't hire Reds anymore, because at some point in time you get smart enough of how to source more greens. You do say, because if I hire Reds, I'm going to go tweak the red and improve Reds. But we have reached the point where don't hire Reds. And the one piece of feedback I gave to Evolv, I said, why didn't you tell me just to hire all the green people? But they don't really say that to you, because then all of a sudden you go, I'm not hiring any people. And you have to work on your sourcing, and that really becomes the ultimate learning and where you go get people. We have data that shows where the green people live. So by zip code, we can go, oh, let's go recruit over there, and we're likely to get more green people for whatever reason from that standpoint. Good question. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and we've really stopped talking about attrition. We're talking about retention now, because we're hiring all greens, and so what do we do to manage and elongate their careers? And I was actually in a meeting with yesterday with the guy that runs this for us. I said, oh, we've been doing business with what? For about a couple of years, 2.5 years, and he reminded me it's been about 18 months. And so it is, across our entire network, it is now what I would call really operational. And I don't really have an answer for that question yet, as to say, what we're saying is, how do we make people want to work for us longer, and what are the trainings or incentives or dollars and cents that will increase that retention? So I'm not clear on how to answer that question, but we're now smart enough to know that we need to go ask that question from that perspective.
I'd just add that it starts with hiring, but you're absolutely right. It's also a matter of how you manage that workforce. And so the work we talked about with the trainers is us moving along the life cycle of the employees and trying to understand, okay, is it training? Is it their supervisor? Is it technology and policies? We're slowly starting to piece that together and develop these models that are better and better at predicting, given all the information we have from someone's tenure.
One last question, anybody? Okay, well, thank you both for your time, and we'll see you in a networking hall.